Welcome back to another episode of Fast Break Lip NBA Podcast. Your boy Samuel here. Got with me a guest today, my boy True God. True God, say what's up to the people.
Hey, what's happening? What's happening with you, man? Happy to be here. Can't wait to get into it.
All right. You want to let the people know where they can find you?
Easiest place to find me is on Twitter at TrueGodBack. That's like my third or fourth account. So yeah, go ahead and follow me at TrueGodBack. So that's where you can find me at.
All right. For today's show, we're going to mainly just talk about what's been going on in the NBA this week, the Warriors finding their groove, some surprise teams, some teams that have been disappointing, and just what's going on with all these blowouts in the league. So let's get right into it. So first we got the Warriors. I know they kind of disappointed a lot of people the way they came out to start the season with two blowouts basically back to back against the Nets, and then I forgot the other team that they played.
They played the Bucks.
They played the Bucks on Christmas, right?
Yep.
And then and they Steph didn't look himself. Oubre didn't look himself. At least from last year, he didn't look like himself. And then Wiggins was giving us the classic bad Wiggins game. So a lot of people were concerned about the team. You know, there was like, what's going on with Steph? What's up with Wiggins? I mean, everybody knew what's up with Wiggins, but they didn't expect him to be that bad.
Right.
And then Oubre was just he hadn't made a jump shot till I think like the Pistons game. So like there was just a lot of concerns going on. And then, you know, the Bulls game comes, they win that game by the skin of their teeth, but Steph gives us a little bit of MVP Steph again. And then we get the Pistons game where Wiggins gets unleashed in the fourth quarter, and then we get like a nice little glimpse from Wiseman. So how do you feel about the Warriors start to the season so far?
I think had this conversation with my boy. We were talking about like you expect them to come out the gate struggling because even in preseason, you know what I mean? Like Wiseman didn't play. There's no Draymond on the floor. You know, Steve Kerr is Steve Kerr, right? So he's not necessarily figuring out his rotation right away. And so I kind of felt like that was going to be the basis of their season. I didn't expect them to beat the Nets. I don't think anybody should have expected them to beat the Nets. I thought it'd be a little more competitive, maybe like a 10, 15 point loss. But I mean, if Wiggins and Oubre weren't playing like trash, that probably would have been the case. It'd probably been a closer game. Same thing with the Bucks. You know, like that's an anomaly, right? You got two guys that come in that average. One guy averaged 20 last year on like 45, 46% from the field. Another guy averaged 19 on 45% from the field. And then you come into the new season and they're averaging 9%, like averaging 5 to 7 points on 9% from three and 20% from the floor. So I think when you start like that, you gotta expect some rough patches. And you're playing against two of the best teams in the East. It takes some time to get going, and Steph wasn't playing like himself. But I think a lot of people use this to kind of knock them when they say, "Oh yeah, they beat the Bulls, they beat the Pistons, two of the worst teams." It's like nobody really looks that great right now. Like nobody really looks that great right now. You know what I'm saying? The Clippers right now. They look kind of good, but they still got beat up by 50 points by the Mavs, who got destroyed by like the Hornets. So
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like you don't really know what it's gonna look like, and I feel like a slight glimpse of I say the first half of the Bucks game to me looks like they'll probably they can stick with a top tier team with the limited personnel that they had on the floor and no Draymond. Like everybody know Draymond, that's the defensive. His IQ is just ridiculous. So you put him on the court, he automatically makes him better and makes him defend better. And then against the Bulls, the Bulls game is interesting because I just felt like they were just making bad decisions. Like it's an IQ thing. It's you need somebody at all times on the floor that can make the smart decision and kind of lead the break and make the right passes. tell people what they need to cut, what they need to go, and you got Uber and you got Wiggins, and they're not necessarily like they're great athletes, but they're not necessarily great players. So,
Yeah.
and I think like Uber, like I said, Uber to me is just confident. I think his thing is confidence. Like if he can get himself, because they getting open looks like
Yeah. But
ridiculous.
they not hitting them.
They just not hitting them. So, and I think what it is everybody can't be Clay. Nobody can be Clay. And
It's such a big shoe to fill, like on both ends of the court. Everyone's expecting them to automatically just pop right in and fit it. So
it's not possible because who is shooting 40% from three every single season? Literally the only other person that does that, to my knowledge, at least on that level, is Steph. And that's Clay and that's it. That's why they're so dangerous. So if you have those two, in that kind of in that realm, and then you bring a guy who's 34%, 35%, what you need to do is put them in position to where you can not replace what Clay brings to the table, but you can kind of supplement what he would bring to the table. Like if you got Pascal uh, bringing in 11 to 13 points a game off the bench, or 9, 10, 11, that's way more than they had off the bench from a single player. Honestly, the last 4 years, because
yeah.
they were so top heavy. The strength of numbers that has to come back for this to work, because you say strength in numbers. Really, during that 3 year run with KD, it was really just a four to 6 man, like real conglomerate, and everybody else kind of just got in where they fit in. Like David West might get you 8 points, and Zaza might get a couple rolls to the basket, and he get 10 here and there. But on a consistent night basis, Iguodala wasn't even getting you 10 points a game off the bench. You know what I'm saying? Like he wasn't even doing that during the KD era. So I think they have to get back to their strength and numbers formula, because the only way you can truly get everybody going, like you got Bazemore, right? You got Bazemore. Bazemore's not even in the rotation right now. And I saw Draymond said something about that on Instagram. But
Yeah, he said that he should be in the rotation.
I mean, I agree with him. I think Baze is kind of he can be kind of a like a dunce at times too. But I feel like he knows
Yeah,
this.
he'll
He
take like
knows.
some like pull ups that are ill advised at the moment or whatnot. So
And so I think you need a guy that's a veteran. You know what I'm saying? That's somebody who's playing with Portland, played with several other teams, and he can average double figures. So you want to put him in position to be somebody who can average maybe 7 to 8 points a game off the bench. Be a hustler on defense, because Jordan Poole ain't gonna cut it. And you know what I'm saying? And Jordan Poole's best served as a point guard rather than playing the two anyway. So,
yeah,
and that's the issue. And I think they picked up his 3rd year option anyway. So if you're gonna work with Jordan Poole, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? Like move Wanamaker to the two. Let Bazemore come in and run the 3. Let Pascal run the 4 off of the bench. You know what I mean? Like you gotta move those pieces around to make it work. And that's the strength of numbers model. Like if you can get Oubre up to a point where he averaging 15, 16, Pascal averaging 10, Bazemore averaging like 8, 9. Get Draymond to average double figures this year again, and get him a shot to look okay. And you got Wiseman who can average 10. If Wiseman continues what he started in these first couple games, and then contributes even more and stays out of foul trouble for the most part, then you're looking at a whole bunch of double digit scores on the team that has a player that is so far above everybody else. Like Steph is so higher than everybody else on this team that he's still trying to make them look good. And I think I hope that he realized in those last 2 games, hey, they'll get in where they fit in. I gotta go
yeah,
get mine.
exactly.
I got you see he scored 36. He dropped 13 in the fourth, and then he started cooking against Detroit. And then Wiggins just kind of what I'm saying, like I was watching a Pistons game, and I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, put Steph back in. Like the game looked like it's about to get out of hand. I'm like, nah, put Steph back in. And then Wiggins just goes off, and then you think, okay, that's the Wiggins that I saw in those like 12, 13 games last season when he got traded there. who made smarter decisions, who was, playing better defense, who, was taking good shots and driving and kicking. That's what you need Wiggins to do. Wiggins is not the guy. Wiggins not the guy you really. I mean, he's can do ISO because that's pretty much how he gets his buckets. But you want him to be a guy. If he's not the guy you want to take, 25 shots a game. You keep him at 15, at 17 shots. Keep Steph at about 23, 24, something like that, and keep Oubre at like 12 to 13 shots, maybe 14 shots a game. I think you got a balanced offense with guys who can not shoot. Like, you shouldn't be shooting 7 threes a game, 7, 8 threes a game, and you are 34, 35, or you won for what, 20 or something, whatever Oubre shit is. Like, you don't need to shoot that many, but you can drive and kick. Wiggins' strength is driving and kicking. We've seen that. Last couple games look like that's his strength in terms of in that flow of that offense is driving and kicking. So if he's driving, kick it out. You got Damian. You put Damian Lee on one side. You put Steph on one side, and you driving and kicking. I feel like that's more dangerous because Damian Lee right now look like the second best shooter on the team.
He
So
definitely is. He definitely is for sure. And I think another thing with the Warriors too is that the plays that they run, or at least what Steph is allowing to be run, is like is trying to get the other guys involved first. Because like if you saw the first two games, like a lot of people were complaining that he was being passive.
yep,
A lot of people were questioning if he still had it because like he didn't shoot that much, and when he did, he was hesitating. For me, I thought he was trying to get the other guys involved, and it's like to a certain point, you have to realize, all right, this is not working. I got to get my own right now, and then the rest of them, like you said, they'll get in where they fit in. And I think another part of that too is that these guys aren't known to play such a high IQ level of basketball because of where they've played previously. Like the type of plays that like were like I noticed I pointed it out on Twitter that like Oubre had missed Steph on a relocation three.
mm-hmm.
And he turned over the ball, and it was like he's not used to playing in a system with a player like that before, and it's going to take some time for him to adjust to that. And Draymond coming back will help with that adjustment period as well. So I think all those type of factors. I think at the end of the day, the Warriors will be fine. I have them as a playoff team. I have them around like the 4th or 5th seed. So I think what we're seeing now is just like the beginning of like them figuring it out. And then when Draymond comes back, hopefully he's healthy and like all the COVID stuff is go with him, and he can just like help them put it all together, make it like complete.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they're a playoff team too. I think uh, the first 15 to 20 games, even though it's a shortened season by 10, like they shortened the season by 10 games, I still feel like it allows you to kind of to you got to build your DNA as a team, especially with a whole new team. Like if the entire off season the Warriors spent, okay, Steph is going to be here. We're going to have Clay here. We're going to put Wiggins here. Wiggins a third option, and he's not going to be needed nearly as much. So cool, he can just cut here. He can do this, you know what I'm saying? Like, he can drive and kick out to Steph, drive and kick out to Clay. Like, that's what you're thinking in your mind. You got Draymond on there, boom, and in my opinion, if everything went the exact same that it's went right now, and they had Clay, that's a top 2 team in the West with everything that's going how it is now. Because you put Clay on the court, Oubre will be a 6-man. Because I mean they would have had to have traded something to get something with that the Iguodala exception. So they would have had to trade it for something. And if they still got Oubre, I feel like that would have I still got Oubre if they still had Clay. I would have still done that because that's another scorer off your bench. That's another guy who can defend. And I think with Clay, that was a much more dangerous, been a much more dangerous squad. But I got them like 4th or 5th. If depending on how other teams adjust, because the Nuggets don't look so great right now, the Kings don't look that bad right now. The
Yeah.
Suns look great, so it's like eventually it's gonna all even out. And with somebody like Steph don't like losing, man. We already know that. So
Facts.
Steph gonna be extra aggressive, and he's gonna realize, yeah, we need you to be MVP, Steph. And he's still like, and that's the thing. People are like, oh, he's washed. We're not gonna see 2016. It's like that's a good thing, in my opinion, because I think 2016 Steph. The thing that I love the most about 2016 Steph was the MVP. That MVP Steph was that he was reckless. He
He was.
was reckless. But this Steph, smarter, knows how to play with different people, which is like, and I think this kind of Steve Kerr's thing is Steve Kerr also got realized. Like he said it too, you got to simplify the offense a little bit. But like Steph knows, Steph is like, let me get these guys going first because I can get mine. That is what you want to do as a leader. But you know, if you're the greatest shooter ever, and you can just go out there and get 13 to 15 points in a quarter. I mean, we've seen stuff when the Curry flurries where you look up the game is tied and then the Warriors up 20 in like 3 minutes. Like
Yep.
that's what he can do. He's still capable of that. They just showed the man hitting 100 plus 3 pointers from the left corner in practice. So he can still do it. It's just all about, and he's getting to his spots. He's just not getting fed the ball. He's getting open shots. He's hesitating before he take them. Like, so once that confidence is there and it's looking like it's there again, and once it gets to that like 15, at that point, and we talking about he got fresh legs, and I also want to point out he's been playing really good defense too. He's been
Yeah,
playing
that's
really
an
good
underrated
defense.
part of his game.
Really good defense. So I look at it like he's not going to get credit for that, obviously, but you know,
Of course not.
but I think, and I personally believe once he takes it up a notch, because he's not anywhere close to where he's going to be, you know, 10, 20 games down the line. But when he does go up a notch, I'm sure his defense will probably wane a little bit. They'll probably go down a little bit. But I think he'll be all right. Like the only person on that squad that I have my biggest doubts about on that squad, honestly, this year is actually not even Wiggins right now. It's
Not?
Oubre. It's Oubre.
Oh.
It's Oubre. I'm gonna tell you why. Because Wiggins' problem is he's too lax, right? Like that's his issue.
Very lax. You heard his comments before the season. He was like, "We're gonna play fluid something." He said fluid basketball, something like that. He said some weird stuff
Yeah.
earlier in the preseason. So
and so with Wiggins, like I look at Wiggins and I'm like, man, listen, if anybody can get out the full potential of who Andrew Wiggins is, it damn sure wasn't going to be Ricky Rubio. It wasn't going to be Karl Anthony Towns. It could have been Jimmy Butler to an extent, but Jimmy Butler is a little different. Steph is the kind of guy, he's like, okay, you lay back, you chill. All right, let's be real. The most chill star in the game pretty much is the second half of the Splash Brothers, really. Clay don't
yeah,
Clay don't make a big deal out of nothing. He chill too. So it's like I don't know their personalities like personally, so I can't speak on it. But it's like Wiggins don't seem like he takes it too serious or too heavy, and that might be a good thing when you play with Steph. And I feel like if there's anybody who could do it, you got Steph and Draymond, two of the highest IQ players in the game right now, and who are winners. So I feel like I don't think he'll be that much of an issue. I see him being able to drop, you know what I'm saying, average 20 a game in this Golden State offense. He get to drive and kick more. He'll get to, uh, kind of get to the basket more and stuff like that. Like cut, like he'll have his looks, and Draymond will know where to find him. Steph will know where to find him. So I'm more worried about Oubre a little bit because I've never looked at Oubre as somebody who had confidence issues. Like especially seeing him in Phoenix like I thought in
yeah.
Phoenix,
He was
man, I was
very
like,
confident last year.
and I feel like it could be because he's coming off of injury. Because he wasn't in the bubble. I think he had surgery. So it could be a number of things. So I'm worried about him, but he looked better in the last game and he hit a shot. He hit a three. So I think if he can slowly start to get his shot selection together, slowly start to, make the right decisions and stuff like that, he'll be okay. But I think that he's the only glaring problem I see, because even Pascal looked like he had a couple issues in the first couple games, but then they moved him to the second unit, and now he looks like he did last year. So
Yeah, second unit I think is better for Pascal because he gets to dominate the ball a little bit more, and being in the first unit with all those guys that demand shots, it's asking too much of him, and I felt like he was hunting his shot a little bit too much in those first two games. Like he was just forcing the issue, trying to get his own because he knew that he played with he was out there with Steph, Wiggins, and Oubre. So he being in the second unit is his benefit. So I think that's also good. But right now, the Warriors kind of have a little dilemma with their center rotation because Chris is out with the injury,
Yeah.
and then you're basically asking Looney, who very slow, um, hasn't been hitting his shots that he's been getting. And then you got Wiseman, the rookie. He's been in foul trouble the last 2 games. I mean, it's looking really thin. I'm not sure it's going to be so much of an issue because Draymond can play a lot of small ball five. So that's just another thing that's been that happened with the
They're
Warriors.
gonna. I think they're gonna try and run what is going to be probably a not a death lineup because it's not the same. But
Yeah,
I think they definitely I mean because Draymond, like I said, Draymond at the small ball five, and when they run small ball, they're gonna be fast paced. So you need guys who can run. I could see him doing something like Steph, Bazemore and Oubre, and maybe put Wiggins at the four or Pascal, something like that, or alternate them and have Draymond like that, or just do Steph, Oubre, Wiggins, Pascal, and Draymond. Like that's a strange group to put together. But I can see him running that. I can see him running that because that's athletically. I'll say athletically that's a nice five to put out there. But as far as shot selection and shooting and all that, they need a shooter. So even Steph, Damian Lee, Oubre, Wiggins, Draymond, that might actually be a solid lineup. I don't know how I would like Wiggins at the four too much, but
defensively that might be an issue.
yeah, but I feel like it depends. Also too, it depends on who you play, right? I think that also depends on who you play,
True.
because you can run that. You can run that against probably run against like Pistons, or you probably run it against the Bulls. Might be run it against a couple other teams, but you can't run it against like the Lakers or even the Clippers. So, but I think that's the interesting thing about the Warriors season is that Wiseman is so good and he has so much potential that I'm like, man, like even if they a playoff team and let's say they're a second round exit, give somebody hell in the first round, what I'm saying, come up short in the second, or even sneak into a conference finals and then and come up short. I think that's a win. That's a win on the season. Obviously, be disappointing, but you still can look forward to Wiseman coming in with the second year experience, obviously being a starting five, their starting center going forward, and then you get Clay back the next season. I feel like the Warriors, in my opinion, if Draymond plays like he cares and is healthy, going forward, I see Clay can come back and do what he does, and if they decide to keep Wiggins or trade him, like I think they got enough. They have enough assets, in my opinion, to compete for the next couple of years. But I still feel it.
Definitely.
But I still feel like they can do something. They can do something this year. I think I really just feel like they're one move away, and they got that disabled player exception. So I feel like they're one move away from putting themselves into second round Western Conference Finals contention because of the fact that you like I don't know what they're gonna do with that, but I feel like they should use it because it's like your tax bill is already high, ridiculous.
Yeah.
You already paying that, and it's like, listen, every piece of dollar they're giving you, it really don't make a difference. You know what I mean? Like you spend all this money this year, we might as well try to get better and compete. So
Facts.
you know, like like I said, I know Joe Lacob and all them boys. They can try to be cheap all they want, man. They billionaires. I don't want to hear that. You know what I'm saying, like I don't want to hear like, you know what I'm saying, like y'all built the Chase Center yourselves, so y'all put that money in. You know what I mean, and go get somebody. Whether it's PJ Tucker, whether it's Derrick Rose, because I'm just looking at salaries. Even if they want to try sneaking and slide, you know what I'm saying, Lonzo Ball some bread. You know what I'm saying? Try to get him with that. Like it's a couple players. Like I said, I don't think Lonzo would even be accessible to him right now. But like if you attach
Yeah.
a pick or two, you can maybe not a first rounder, but attach one of them second rounders. They had a couple. They acquired a couple second rounders in some of their trades. So it's like and there's a few things that could happen too. Like let's say Harden is traded to Miami or something like that. Not to say that it would happen, but if Harden was traded to Miami and somehow Iguodala would get traded there, which I'm assuming salary wise that'd be the case, I wouldn't see Houston holding on to him. Probably not if they
Probably not.
and then you can bring him back in whatever role he wanted to if he get bought out. So it's like there's other ways they can go by like game 30, game 30, 35 for them. I still think they should use. I've been saying they should get Derrick Rose. Like if you, I don't know why they kept Jordan Poole. Personally, I mean, like I think he cool. He can do his thing, but he's not gonna be the guy. Like if you need another scorer off your bench, Derrick Rose can get you 15, 15, 20 a night, and he's smart enough to make the right plays, and he knows, what I'm saying, he can get his own buckets. He don't need. We just watched him, catch fire a little bit at the end of the Warriors game, game against the Warriors. So yeah,
Yeah.
like I feel like there's pieces they can acquire, and once you get it's just that it just matters that much to get another, like moderately high IQ player on your squad, and it can change your fortune. I mean, Clippers and Lakers to me still probably right now look like the two top teams, just
Yeah, but
because
after that, everything else is like
it's up for
up for grabs.
grabs.
To be honest, yeah.
Yeah,
So next thing I want to talk about is this blowout thing in the NBA. So like it's been going on crazy these last couple of days. I think like since Sunday, we had the Mavs beat the Clips by 51. And of course the Clips didn't have Kawhi, but like that's no excuse to get shellacked like that. The Knicks, my Knicks beat the Bucks
yeah,
by like 20. And
that
like
was
Julius
crazy.
Randle was putting up a masterclass against them. We had I forgot who else. Let me look real quick.
It's been a lot, bro. Like
The Bucks beat Miami by like 47. Suns beat the Pelicans, and like Book and CP only scored like 17 combined.
yep.
Charlotte beat the Mavs the other day. I mean, it's just been going crazy these last couple of days, and it's like I was thinking to myself, I'm like, what's contributing to all these blowouts? And the first thing that came to me was, of course, like the no fans experience, because like when you have fans in the building, they kind of contribute to the energy of your team, how you flow in, especially if you're at home.
Yep.
If you have the home team on, if you're the home team and your crowd is like amping you, it kind of gives you a little boost to come back. But like with no crowd, if you down 20, your morale is down. Heads are falling, heads are dropping. Everybody's looking at each other like, yo, what do we do? Like it's just a situation where like you're like, you know what, we'll just give it a try the next night. So we saw after that Bucks Miami game, Miami came back the next night and beat them by like 15 or something. So it's like I was thinking to myself, like, what's really contributing to all these blowouts? And I think it's that also paired with the limited preseason and training camp. I think teams are still kind of getting adjusted to their rotations and their lineups, and they're just figuring out like what is working best for us right now. Like a team like the Mavericks, like they got beat on Christmas Day, they got blown out too. I forgot to mention that, and they just got beat by the Hornets. And I think the main thing with the Mavericks, using them as an example, is they lost their offensive coordinator basically to the Rockets. He became their head coach, Steven Silas. He was
Yeah.
the orchestrator of their offense last year. So, losing that piece, and then of course Porzingis being out and them losing Seth Curry as well, their offense is just like tanked, and it doesn't look the same at all. And I think that's also a thing that's contributed, like all these different changes that have happened in such a short period of time without having the proper time to adjust has contributed to just all these losses, like by like 30, 40, 50 points now.
No, I
So
agree.
what do you think about
Yeah,
that?
I agree, man. I think it's like you said, it's a number of things. It definitely is the adjustment period. But like I also think uh sometimes we put expectations on teams that aren't actually that good, and I think everything looks good on paper, and certain things look good on paper. Like, which was crazy for me is they were like, "Yo, the Mavs are gonna be a beast of a team." And then I saw people, what I'm saying, and I saw people say I'm looking at all these boards, and people like they got them third in the West, fourth in the West, fifth in the West, and then there's the same people who saying like, "Oh yeah, Golden State's gonna be like 13th in the West," and I'm looking at it like, well, I'm taking Steph over Luca. I'm taking Draymond probably over anybody else on the roster since Porzingis is out. I'm looking at that roster, and that was, and even with like somebody like, Dallas gonna be better than Denver, and I'm thinking how? To me, like Denver should be, they got Michael Porter Jr., they got Jamal Murray, they got Jokic, like those things it doesn't make sense. I think the power of Luka kind of got people a little amped, and to see how
Definitely.
and like let's not forget the Mavs were a 7th seed last year, and they got. I'd say they got very lucky against the Clippers team that didn't really want to be in the bubble. That's how I really felt, because a lot of them games, like they shouldn't have. I don't think they should have won some of the 2 games that they did. I just felt like the Clippers didn't want to be there. If the Clippers look the way they look right now, and granted, the Mavs did blow out the Clippers without Kawhi, but it's just when a team doesn't care that much, and I know people act like that's not a thing, but it is a thing. And if a team don't care that
Especially
much,
early on in the regular season too.
yeah, like if a team don't care that much, you're not gonna look good. And I think with some of these teams, um, you know, I don't think these teams should be as bad as they are. And I'll give you an example. I just was watching the Bulls and the Wizards, and the Wizards shouldn't be as bad as they are, but they
Yeah, they
are
are
that.
horrible.
But they are that way because, one, Scott Brooks to me is not. He has not been a great coach. And on
Yeah.
top of that, defensively, the Wizards have never been. That's never been their strong point. So, and you got 2 guys that don't really defend well, and Russ and Bradley Beal. Offensively, that sounds like a great tandem to put together. Beal can do things off ball. He's, he can create offense too. And then, Russ is Russ, even though Russ hasn't been, like Russ Russ hit his peak as a player the year he won MVP. To me, like that was his peak, and I feel like there's never like once he got that MVP, it was like justification for when KD left, and he's like, well, you left, you got your rings, but I showed I can lead my team, and then after that, it kind of just felt like it was like a gradual decline. And so when I look at the Wizards, I'm like, man, if Russ can get back to how he was playing in the D'Antoni offense at certain points last year, I think the Wizards would be okay. Like,
Well, part of that last year was that they had no center on the court. So, like, I don't want to say Russ was like the de facto center, but he was the only person that was taking up the paint points. So that made it kind of easier. With the Wizards, he kind of has to go back to playing um, the traditional way. And I see he's taking a lot of jumpers, especially in that Wizards game. I was watching that earlier. But yeah, their defensive issues are a huge problem, the Wizards. So I think that's what contributed to their 0 and
like
5
who,
start.
who's their best defender, right? Like, who's their best defender? Can't really. I couldn't pinpoint
Yeah, I
anybody,
would say Rui probably.
and even then, he got like I
He's a
last
second year player.
yeah, like last year, I went to like maybe like 15 Wizards games, like 15, 20 Wizards games last year. And I watched them, watch them play and watch them and stuff like that. And I remember we would be in the games, and I'm like, man, these boys can score. They can't defend for shit. Like they can't
Yeah.
defend nothing. And so, and like, I remember it was like one game they had I went to see them against the Clippers, and Kawhi and PG played, and it was a close game up until maybe like the like middle of the fourth, and then all of a sudden Clippers just start draining shots on them, and I'm like, see, that's gonna be the issue. And then you bring in Russ, and then it's like, okay, Russ could get buckets for you at the end of games. He's done it before. Like, I ain't going, people like to, go at Russ and whatever. I ain't gonna say that about my man. It's like Russ can, he can do his thing or whatever, but he's not the guy you want to take the last shot. Brad
Yeah, he's
Bill,
not.
Bradley Bill is a guy you want to take the last shot. But everything matters. Spacing matters. You know what I'm saying? Like your offensive sets, all this stuff matters. And
Mm-hmm.
Scott Brooks can't run that OKC shit. He can't run what he was trying to run with, a John Wall and a Bill. You can't really run that now because Russ is averaging a triple double through 4 games. And they're 0-5, but he played 4 of them, and he's averaging triple double. So Russ is playing his game, but that don't mesh with everybody else. You got Denny, you got Roy, you got Thomas Bryant on there, you got a couple other guys like so. They have pieces, but that's a team that I don't know if they got blown out, but I know they lost pretty badly the other day. Maybe like not a blowout, but like double digit loss. And so I see that, and I'm like, man, that's not a team that is that horrible. It's just that they haven't found their identity yet. and their identity on offense and defense. Which you got two good offensive players there, you can figure that out. But their defensive side, and same thing for the Mavericks. Same thing, really. Really want to be. The Nuggets don't look that good right now, or great either.
Defensively, they're not. Yeah, with the Nuggets, it's a compounding of a bunch of things. So they lost Grant and they lost Craig, two of their better wing defenders.
Yep.
I mean, you're asking Harris and Barton to kind of to pick up that slack, but they kind of like on the smaller side where Craig and Grant were much bigger and could guard like threes and fours. And then you asking MPJ to also play some defense, and that's not his strong suit. You just
No.
mainly have to get some buckets. And he's been able to get some buckets, but like he's food on defense. He doesn't know what he's doing out there sometimes. They throw Bol out there sometimes, and he looks completely lost on defense. He doesn't
Yeah.
know what he's doing.
Too
So
slow.
yeah, and that's what's going on with the Nuggets. Another team that suffers from bad defense is the Pelicans, who every time they're on national TV, they're getting blown out too. Um, I mean, the Pelicans, they don't got no defense. They don't got no spacing. They're just letting all the guys shoot and no one can hit anything. I mean, you got JJ, you got Lonzo, you got BI, but like after that, it's a big drop off with shooting on the rest of that team.
You
So
know, you know what messed that team up. Hey, I mean, we all said it, right? You brought in Bledsoe.
yeah,
You kept Bledsoe, and because they had George Hill, and then they opted to keep Bledsoe over George Hill, right? I
and
feel
then
like,
sent George Hill to OKC. I think
yeah.
that's what the
So
trade was.
and they got Steven Adams, and I feel like you could have got one of them one of them vet minimum centers available as opposed to getting Steven Adams. Like Steven Adams, like if you wanted to get a big, like you can get somebody, just anybody. Like I don't feel like Steven Adams is not the guy that you want, and neither is Eric Bledsoe. Like he's not that guy. And so I thought, in my opinion, I thought what they were going to do. I'm like, yo, they're going to get rid of Bledsoe, and they're going to try to keep George Hill because George Hill would be, to
George
me,
Hill makes way more sense for them,
right.
spacing wise at least. And then what confused me even more is when they traded for Steven Adams and then extended him. I was like, yo, what are y'all doing? Like y'all already have bad spacing and then you just made it worse. Like
Yeah, I think what they saw, and this is my opinion, I think they saw uh, this tower, this wall with Zion being this big burly dude who can block shots if he needs to, and he's a force. He's a force. And then you take somebody who is Steven Adams, uh 7 foot guy, and I guess Steven Adams gets rebounds. It's kind of hard to remember what it's like when Steven Adams was pulling down a lot of boards, because I'm so used to seeing him, what I mean, when he was playing with Russ. So it's like you think in your mind, okay, we got this guy here, we got Eric Bledsoe, like, but it's a horrible starting five. If you got Bledsoe, was it Lonzo, Bledsoe, Bi, Zion, and Adams, like literally the two best shooters right there are gonna be Lonzo and Bi, and Lonzo is not consistent of a shooter yet. Not that consistent of a
yeah,
shooter yet. And then Bi is a walking bucket. That's a fact. BLA, like Ingram is a walking bucket. He can get it. But even him, he's not like the most consistent shooter yet. He's got very similar patterns to KD with how he scores, but he hasn't hit that level. And I keep seeing people talk about it, and I'm like, I see pattern his game after KD. Like there's a couple other guys, like Michael Porter Jr. to me, pattern his game after KD,
yeah,
and
he
how he
does.
scores. But I think it's just the efficiency in the way you shoot and how like it's different. And I think Bi is he's at that level where he's close, but if that's the one pure score that you got in your pretty much your whole rotation. Like
Yeah,
you got JJ Redick, but it's like that's the catch. It's a catch and shoot god right there. You know what I'm saying? Or he does a little one dribble and throw it up. Like he's not at this stage. JJ Redick's in his mid-30s at this point, close to late 30s or some shit. Like he's not going to be that big of a force. And I think you need to have him out there with somebody else. I thought JJ Redick should have left and went elsewhere. That's what I
I
thought.
think he was on a 2-year deal, so I don't know if he had an option to
Yeah,
leave.
I think he signed a 2-year deal, which I thought was weird when he signed in the first place. But I was thinking, man, they doing all these trades. I was like, and when they got George Hill, I was like, man, maybe they can get rid of JJ then. Like, in my opinion, I was like,
Yeah,
hey, you can get rid of JJ, like, because I think, like I said, George Hill is a good shoot. He can shoot. George Hill can shoot. Like he's not not the greatest shooter, but he's pretty efficient when and he's
he shoots like the last couple of years. I think, especially in Milwaukee, he shot like above 40%, maybe close to like 45% on 1 year. So he can definitely shoot. So it was odd that they sent him to OKC in the deal. But I mean,
and
Pelicans. I mean, David Griffin made his bed. He's got to sleep in it now with
the
the
league.
spacing.
I know the league is probably I don't know, man. I know the league cannot be happy. Because let's be real, right? The league sweeten the pot for New Orleans, right? And it's
Oh,
like, okay,
definitely.
they said, look, we'll give you Zion, we'll give you the number one pick. Just go ahead and slide Anthony Davis over to our face. Slide him over there. We'll give you number one pick. We'll give you another pick, and and you can be formidable. And then they gave him all these TV spots. They brought the idea to like this is where the idea to play in the bubble was really just to try to get Zion in the playoffs. That's
Oh,
really the
definitely, for sure. That was my initial speculation as soon as they did it. But I mean, hey, I like that they keeping it. It keeps more fan bases, I guess, involved towards the end of the
yes,
year, because some teams fans, especially for me as a Knicks fan, I'm tuned. I still watch the games, but I'm kind of tuned out of the sport at a certain point in the year because I already know what's the deal.
yeah.
So it's like
It's
it keeps more fan bases involved. It's kind of fun. I don't know how they're gonna do it this year, if it's gonna work necessarily, but we'll see.
yeah, but I feel like for the Pelicans, like they're gonna be, in my opinion, Pelicans if they can right their ship a little bit and get focused, I think they'll be in that play in spot again. But once again, I don't think Zion is going to prove to be as big box office as they thinks he is right now. Because if you're not winning, people are gonna get tired of seeing you. Like that's just how. Like no matter what team it is, no matter what like it's still New Orleans is still considered. It shouldn't be, but it's still considered a smaller market in the NBA landscape, right? So you're looking at this second year player who the hype is there, but his play isn't living up to it. And you're gonna see
Hmm.
even in Dallas, if Luka's play doesn't, like the same way they praise you, this is the same way they're gonna start chipping away at you, and that's what they do with every star. Like Giannis is 2-time MVP, reigning 2-time MVP,
He's getting
but
slandered
they're getting
constantly.
slandered left and right. Don't get me wrong. There's good reason to slander
It's
him,
deserved.
but at the same time, it's still like, hey, bro, for all of the slander this man takes, he averaged 30, 13, and 6. And on high efficiency from like 56, 57% from the field. And on top of that was the defensive player of the year. You can't be that person and then come into the season and then everybody's saying, oh, he's trash. He don't got no skills, da da da. I like I just think Giannis is a prime example of somebody who's being used the wrong way with the coach who does not really, even though his stats look good and how he uses them it's great usage, but he doesn't know how to use them correctly because Giannis is a big. Giannis taking all these 3-pointers and he's got to develop a 3-point shot. Like if he can hit
I
them
I rather him I rather him just develop a post game, to be
that's
honest.
it. Yeah, like because he's ball, he's a big dude. He's 7 foot. His wingspan is ridiculous. So if you put him in that post and he can do something, like even like if he had 25% to 50% of what Hakeem had, that he
He'll be a
would.
beast.
That's it. Like you can't do nothing with that. And he still has a decent mid range shot. I want people to be. I don't. It hasn't been. It don't feel like it's been used as much. But it was like a couple years ago, right? I think right when Coach Bud took over for Milwaukee. I like Giannis would every now and then in the game pull up from the midi. He had a midi. He had a shot. And we see it a little bit, but it's not the same. Like now, it's just like you just elbow, like he just elbow first, and like he just
Yeah.
straight power. But I never forget, and it's funny. It's just so funny because it was a Knicks game that I remember, and I've called that the Giannis masterclass game, and because he hit a game winner on y'all, he hit a game
Oh
winner
yeah, I
on y'all,
remember that.
and I think the same game he dunked over
Tim Hardaway
Tim
Jr.
Hardaway, yeah, and so I like
Yeah, the game winner he made was a mid range shot from like the mid post free throw
yeah,
line area. So
so like
he has that in his
he
game,
has it, he
but
can, it's
but
just
he
not
doesn't he
utilized.
doesn't use it anymore. Yeah. So let's talk about some teams that have had some rough starts. We kind of spoke a little bit about Washington. We talked about a little bit about Denver. What's going on with them? Miami, they're like 2-2, but they haven't had the most solid of starts for a team that's coming back from just being in the finals. Toronto, they just got their first win a couple minutes ago against the Knicks.
Oh, y'all lost. Let's see, I didn't see that.
Yeah, yeah, 1-3 on the season for Toronto Mavericks. Also, I think 1-3 as well. And Houston, I think they are in. I think they're playing the Kings right now, or they had just won against the Kings. I'm not sure, but they've also struggled. Of course, they've been shorthanded versus. They just won actually, but they're 1-2. They also struggled. The previous two games because they were shorthanded because of the whole COVID quarantine situation. So, I mean, we kind of spoke about like it being a short season and some teams not really taking it seriously, but I think in the end it could also bite some of these teams in the behind towards the end of the year because there's 10 less games this year. Um, and you never know when your team is going to be shorthanded due to injury or COVID or whatever other situation that may arise throughout the year. And having such a slow start, especially if you're a team in the West, if you have such a
Yeah,
slow start, like especially with the Mavs, like we spoke about them previously, um, when you have these slow starts, it can impact where you are in the playoff position. I mean, I don't mind as a Knicks fan because we own Dallas's pick, so I don't even mind if Dallas misses the playoffs. I don't even mind. But like other teams like Houston and Denver's supposed to be a favorite in the West, but if they're not clicking the way that they're supposed to be, if Jokic is getting his triple doubles, he's getting his numbers. Um, MPJ has looked solid. Murray hasn't looked the best. The bubble Murray is gone. That's all gone now. So it ain't happening anymore. It's back to regular Jamal Murray where he gives you like 25 on one night and then 7 the other night.
yep.
So I mean, it's rough for these teams that have these slow starts. Washington, I think they can still sort of pick things up if they start to win some games, but
They'll be a
they'd have to do
play-in.
it quickly.
They'll be a
Yeah,
play-in
they might be
team.
a playing team, but when I did my season preview with one of my guys, I originally put Washington as a 6 seed because I was like, you know, I know John Wall. I mean not John Wall. Russell Westbrook has taken teams he took that OKC team to an 8th seed in the West, and I feel like this team at least offensively was better than that OKC team. But
Absolutely.
what I ignored was OKC's defense back then was a pretty good defense. You had
Hmm.
like Oladipo, you had Roberson, you had Sabonis. Even as a rookie, I guess he was pretty solid. Taj Gibson, like they had a pretty solid team defensively back in OKC with Russ's MVP year. But this Washington team is like the complete opposite of that team on defense. Like everybody's turnstiles. I mean, today's game against the Bulls, they had a whole bunch of dudes. I mean, Kobe White and Otto Porter Jr. had like a 28-point game against them.
Yep.
So I mean, like Washington is bad defensively. I mean, we kind of anticipated that, but I didn't think it was gonna be this bad. Like where like Chicago's putting up 133 on them and it's like really bad. I didn't expect it to be this bad. So like
Yeah. Nah. I didn't think it was gonna be like this. I figured they get off to a slow start. I was thinking more like after 5 games, I was thinking like 1-4, 2-3. I was thinking like 2-3 made more sense. You had
Yeah,
because I thought, okay, maybe you lose your first two, do you get a win? And I thought they would at least get one against the Bulls. I thought,
yeah.
the
Losing both to the Bulls is bad.
yeah, and like the Bulls, like the Bulls is another team that got off to a weird start. Weird start themselves because I think you remove, Bolin and then you put in Billy Donovan, and it's like, okay, well,
Expected something to be a bit different.
it's at least expecting to try to be. And I mean, I guess right now, it's too early to call it. It's 5 games. They were 2-3, so I guess it's too early to call it in terms of like them not being a play-in team. Because once again, that's 7 through 10. So even if you finish 9th or 10th in the East, you get a shot at getting a good play-in spot. So I don't know. I feel like Uh, I think for the Wizards, man, I think they just need to learn to play together, and because it's literally, to me, watching them, it's like everybody just going to get theirs. They're not playing together, and
Yeah,
that's a
but I
problem.
think that's part of just like integrating someone like Russell Westbrook into your offense because you kind of know he's gonna dominate the ball. So you're kind of like forced to when you get the ball, you're like, all right, I gotta get mine because Russ is gonna have his, and then Beal is gonna have his. So I gotta contribute in some way, one way or another.
And this is the conversation I had with someone about Russ. I say, well, Russ is probably a great teammate to be around. You know what I'm saying?
As a
Probably,
person.
yeah, the person. I said, but to play with him on the court, it's really a up and down situation. Like he like him playing next to PG gave PG the best season PG's ever had regular season wise. You know, but even with that, even though with that, like they still didn't go that far because playing with Russ, you'll get, you know, if you're in the playoffs and y'all are down 10, Russ gonna take another 15 shots, which he only gonna hit
Yeah,
about 3 or 4 of them. So then you look and you was down 8 or 9. Now you down 17, and then you got to fight back. And so that's the ebbs and flows of being a Russell Westbrook teammate. But I think, like I said, I think the Wizards will be okay. A couple other teams, like I said, it's too early in the season, man. Like I got saying this on Twitter.
but
Like
but it's also a shortened season too, so you gotta kind of get things together really quickly if you're gonna struggle this soon.
everybody got
Because
to
another
be.
team that yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say everybody has to be at least locked in by game 10. I say game 10 is the latest. You like some people like usually if it was an 82 game season by game 20, you need to be fully locked in because
Yeah,
but this is shorter season. So I said game 10, and I had this conversation about the Warriors with Rue on Twitter, and I was like, by game 10, the Warriors need to know if they're going to use that disabled player exception. They need to know what their rotation looks like because you like, okay, you 4 games in, you 2-2 now. You got 6 games. You got a 7 game homestand. By the end of that homestand, you should know who you are. You should know your identity. You should know what you want to go with. At least if everybody's still healthy, you know what I'm saying? Like and far. And the same thing for Dallas. Like Porzingis' injury might continue to be a lingering issue all year. So
yep.
you gotta
That's
you gotta
exactly one of my thoughts as well. And like I said before, the guy who orchestrated their offense last year, he's the coach for Houston now. So that's a whole nother issue they have to figure out. Their offense doesn't look the same. It's not flowing the way it did last year. And I think it has to do with that dude leaving, Steven Silas. And then you also take away Seth Curry. I think he's another contributor to their offense last year. Being
you
able to
need a
shoot threes,
shooter.
yeah,
A
being able to
shooter,
shoot
man.
three. And then not only that, he was able to create some stuff off the dribble if like someone ran him off the 3-point line. I
Yeah,
don't think
like
they have I don't think they have anybody like that this year. So you're relying on Tim Hardaway Jr. to be
whew,
his second option basically, and that you asking for a lot from Tim Hardaway
that's a
Jr.
lot. That's
And
way
so
too
far he's
much.
not delivering. I know what it's like to rely on Tim Hardaway Jr. to be your second option when we had Porzingis in New York. It's a lot of rough nights, and you're gonna be frustrated a lot of those nights. It's gonna be a lot of L's also. So
And also, what makes it worse with Luca, there are 2 players right now shooting the worst from 3. I think to start a season ever, right? Like the first 4 or 5 games, and that's Kelly Oubre and that's Luca. right?
Yeah,
And see
it's not
here,
good at all.
but see,
2 for 21 from three.
but see, here's what makes that even worse, right? Kelly Oubre is getting catch and shoot threes, right? Most of them catch and shoot threes. Most of them, getting open shots. He's just missing
Hmm.
them. It's a confidence thing. Luka is creating his own offense.
Hmm.
Luka he's the shot creator.
But the
And
thing with Luca also is that Luca takes a lot of bad shots.
bad shot. And that was
Deep
yeah.
contested like step backs in people's grills. Like, yeah, I know he can hit them sometimes, but right now, if you're just trying to get your rhythm, you don't take those type of threes. When
You
you're in
know,
rhythm, that's when you take those threes.
the one thing about Luka that like I said, I like Luka. I'm a fan. I went to go see him play live, and I was like, man, this dude's fire. You know what I'm saying? He's fire. But the one thing I don't like, Luka could you look at Luka's stat line. Luka's stat line to me, and I mean this in the nicest way possible. It reminded me of a Russell Westbrook stat line a lot of times, last year, because you would look at what you would like. Yo, Luka had like 30, he had 12 and 14, and you're like, yo, he shot maybe 9 of 22 from the field, which if we talking about numbers, it's not really good. It's not good, but
Yeah.
you'll accept it because you got to win. Or he hit the game winning shot, but then from three, he was like 2 of 8 or 3 of 10, and that's not good. So it's like you see that, and the way the perception of Luka is, he's just. I saw somebody like Luka's top 5 in the league right now, and I'm like, man,
He
I
was,
can't.
I mean, he was the MVP favorite in betting odds to begin the season in Vegas. So, I mean, that
He
tells you how
was
the
he was on
MVP
my
favorite.
my 2 MVP favorites was him and Steph, and the reason why
Same.
is and the reason why and really is it was really just Steph. I was really just Steph. I threw Luka in there because I was like, I know the NBA wants him in that position, so I was like, the only thing that will worry me for Luka is your team going to be that good, because you
Yup,
don't know.
that was one of the main things I brought up when I was talking on my season preview episode. I was like, my man, he chose Luka as the MVP favorite, and I was like, I don't think Luka's gonna get enough wins. He might be like a 7th seed or 8th seed, and I don't think the MVP, I don't think the NBA is gonna give it to him unless he has a story behind him. And with Russ, when Russ got his story was KD had just left him, and he was basically by himself. So the whole everything came together perfectly for us. With Luka, it's just like, sure, I mean, yeah, your guy got hurt, but I mean, you're still
That's
expected to carry the load. So
That's why that's why I keep telling people, I'm like, yo, the stage is set for Steph to be aggressive, get them to a 4th, 5th seed, and win MVP, because it's your first season fully healthy with now KD's in Brooklyn, got Kyrie, Clay is out again for the 2nd year straight. You're working with Kelly Oubre, Andrew Wiggins, a rookie, and James Wiseman, and Draymond shoots with a backpack. And like if you can take that to a top 4, top 5 seed and score 27, 28, 29 a game, MVP is yours. Because who else you gonna give it to? There's no storyline built in there. You can't give it to Bron. I know the media would like to. Can't give it to Bron, because Bron's not gonna have a better season this year. In my opinion, he's not gonna have a better season this year than he had last year. I don't
yeah, I
see
don't
it.
think he's gonna take the regular season as seriously as
Right. Because
he's taking it.
every time he wins or goes to the finals, his next regular season is never that strong. That's just usually what happens, and like that's okay. Like I remember after he left Miami and he went to Cleveland, he came back to Cleveland. Like those 2015, 2016 regular seasons, they weren't that great. Like they were good. I mean, obviously good, and good in general
By
by
his
his standards,
standards.
but it
Yeah,
wasn't like what we had seen before. And even starting so far, like the Lakers, they got enough depth there to where you probably don't need to do that. And so then you can't. And if that's the case, if you ain't giving it to Bron, then you really shouldn't give it to AD, considering that they're the stacked favorites right now. So and then if you go to the Clippers, you're not giving it to Kawhi, because Kawhi, to me, probably don't even care about like really don't care about winning. You damn Paul George ain't getting it, so we can And then it's like, who else? You can go to the East. If you want to give it to KD, like I've been seeing people talk about it.
Trey Young's an early favorite. I'm
Trey
seeing
Young,
so far.
right now, if I had to pick a favorite, that would be my favorite for MVP right now. 5 games in, it'd be Trae Young because nobody
And he's
expected the
getting
Hawks.
he's getting a superstar whistle too. I don't know if you've noticed. He's
I've
leading the
seen,
league in
I've seen
free
it.
throws. And
I've
against
seen
the
it.
Nets, he was getting like a free throw parade, basically. Like he just
Yeah,
kept doing the same thing over and over, and he just kept giving him the call. So he's an early favorite. So let's talk about the teams that are doing good in each conference so far. So we got Philly at the top in the East, 4-1. Orlando 4-1. I don't expect Orlando to keep it up there because Orlando always has these hot starts to the regular season.
mm-hmm.
Indiana's been playing pretty solid. Domantas Sabonis has been killing it
Shocked by
lately.
that. Just a little shocked by
He
that.
You are? I think I
No,
saw this coming because what,
no.
Indiana or Sabonis?
Sabonis, no. I expect him. I think he made that jump. You know, I think last year he made that leap, and I think
Definitely.
he was gonna come back. I think he's slightly exceeding what my expectations were so far this year, but I think Oladipo rounding back into form a little bit is also, which
Definitely
is
helping them.
that's what's also shocking me because I felt like he was on the way out. Right, I felt like Oladipo didn't seem like he wanted to be there, so I felt like he was going to give it like half effort. And I know they just got dealt the blow because T.J. Warren is out indefinitely. I just saw that.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
that's gonna suck for them.
so that might but they got enough talent, man. They got enough talent to make something happen. I was shocked about it. I don't necessarily think they'll be like top 2 in the East or top 3.
They'll
By
probably be
the
like 4 or 5, maybe.
Yeah, like they're a 4 or 5 team to me. They're a 4 or 5 team, but they got enough talent. Philly though,
You still wonder
I'm
about the Simmons Embiid fit?
not so much the fit. It's the
Just everything
aggressiveness.
around them?
It's the
Oh, the
aggressiveness
aggressiveness?
because if Ben Simmons was, let me just if I had to pick. If I had to pick an MVP right now, it'd be Trae Young. If I had to pick a defensive player of the year so far, it'd be Ben Simmons. Let me say that.
Definitely. He's been clamping up everything.
Let me say that. But offensively, I feel like he could be a little more aggressive. But to be fair, he now has options who he can be like, all right, cool. Tobias Harris is starting off pretty well. Embiid is eating right now. Steph Curry can hit some shots. Danny Green, whatever. But like they have some pieces who, if Ben want to kick it out to somebody, they can actually take the shot and possibly hit it.
Yeah.
Whereas they didn't have that before, so it helps a little bit with their spacing. But I still feel like you're Ben Simmons. He can drive and get him an easy layup, dunk it very easily. Like he's a good ball handler, so he can do that. So it's like, all right, cool. But it's his aggressiveness that they go offense that kind of makes me wonder what their cap is, right? Like what their
Mm-hmm.
cap is success wise. Because Embiid, I know like Embiid is also the same
You know
thing,
what he's
man.
gonna give you.
But I see Embiid
But
is also the same thing. He's not I don't think Embiid is aggressive. I think Embiid is he's a force. He's a force on the court because he's so big and he can do little things. But
mhm.
aggressiveness, I don't see it. Like, and I don't want to be that guy, like, man, I don't need to see killer instinct and aggressive. I don't care about all that. It's just I want to see them be more aggressive because I feel like they're limiting themselves from their reaching their full potential together. I think they work well together. It's just that
Yeah.
when you got a guy sitting at the 3-point line wide open and he just standing there with the ball, that's an issue. Like
Yeah.
that's and it's like for Ben Simmons, even if you miss a shot, okay, so what? Like okay,
Yeah.
like
It's a mental thing. I mean, I saw he made one today, so hopefully
yeah,
that boosts his confidence to continue taking them. Continue on in the East, we got Atlanta. We talked about Trey.
yeah,
Trey, early MVP candidate. He's been killing it with his team is like sort of hobbled, but like not all the way hobbled. I know Gallinari missed some games. I think Capella missed a couple games, but he's kept them afloat. I mean, they didn't play the best of competition, but Trey Young's did his thing to the
right,
point where it's like to the point where it's like he's kept them afloat and they've done their thing. They almost won that game against the Nets. I mean, there was no defense being played in that Nets game though, to be fair, on either side. Um I think that's going to be Atlanta's issue throughout the year. It's going to be
uh huh,
defense.
yeah,
And then we got Brooklyn. They're 3-2 right behind Atlanta. I
yeah,
think we both expect Brooklyn to be up there towards the end of the year in the standings as like a top 2 or 3 seed.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I think. Um, KD looks like KD.
So
Um,
far.
so
One thing I
far,
did notice to cut you off real quick is that Katie separation off the dribbles against good defenders is not all the way back. I'll say
and
that.
I don't think he'll ever gonna get that back. Honestly,
Mm.
it's that step. It's your step. your your
Yeah,
your Achilles is it's even though you can come back from it, it's never gonna be exactly the same, man. Like even like John Wall, man. Like I watched some of the Rockets game and John Wall dunked. He dunked his first in game dunk since, and his elevation wasn't even the same.
ooh,
So
that elevation is not
it's
there at
not
all.
there. So it's like those injuries take a toll. We got to remember, KD been in the league since like '07. We in 2021. Like
Yes, time is
that's a
catching. Father time
long
is also catching up.
and that's a crazy thought too, right? That's a crazy thought because you feel like KD got so much time left as a basketball player because he was literally hitting his stride in Golden State. That's the best I've ever seen
Yeah,
him play. So it sucks because he was literally to me, he was the best player in the world, hands down, in my opinion. Just that last run he was on, I was like, yo, nobody's doing that. Nobody's 6'11". Nobody's shooting 50, 40, 90 in the playoffs, averaging 35. Nobody's doing that. Like, so he was there, he was cooking, and then it just the unfortunate injury, and he had a lot of time off, which I think helps. It helps with making him look good out the gate because you're overzealous to get back, so you cooking everything. But once that wear and tear in your body sets in, game 30, game 35, game 40, it's never 100% the same. And I always use, and I don't like to use, Kobe as an example, but I remember how Kobe would go so hard after the Achilles injury. And Kobe was a little older, but Kobe
yeah, he
was like,
was.
he was like in year 18, 19, whereas KD is in year, what, 13, 14. So,
Yeah,
but it's still like, but, you know, KD's slightly going to overcompensate, I think, as time goes on. But as long as his shot, as long as he can get a shot, that's that.
that's what
Like
really matters.
he,
Yeah,
he, he might not be a 50, 40, 90 guy this year, but because it seemed like he's having a little trouble with his free throws. And some of the, like, and some of his shots, like it balanced out yesterday. But he started off rough yesterday. He's missing some good shots yesterday
yeah,
in the
both him
beginning.
and Kyrie were off rough, but he let Kyrie take over in the fourth, and I think that's going to be something that we see as a consistent theme throughout the year for Brooklyn. At least is like who's going to take over at the end of each game. They haven't been in that many close games. I think that was the first close game, besides the Charlotte game as well. So those are the last two games that I've seen them actually be close with them on the court because they were close in the game with Memphis when Ja got hurt, but they weren't on the court. But yeah, that's gonna be interesting to see who they let take over at the end of each game. Is it like who has it going, or is it gonna be like Kyrie for the rest of the year, or like is it gonna be KD up to a point? So
That's where it's gonna be.
yeah,
That's where I think KD is gonna miss Golden State a little bit, in my opinion, uh, because for Dinwiddie's out, which that's unfortunate.
that's a
Um,
blow right there.
that's a big blow. But Levert thinks he's. I always said Levert is
Levert
not.
thinks he's better than he is.
Yeah, like so he gonna ISO you to death if he get a chance. And
Yeah,
I get that that's a part of their offense. And don't get me wrong, like KD is an ISO player. I mean, come on, man, you can't do nothing with it. Kyrie and ISO, you can't really do nothing with it. So I get it. I get the concept. I see what they're doing, but I think when it comes down late in games, there were games where and that was one thing I didn't like the narrative of get a ball to KD in the fourth quarter. Because there's fourth quarters that Steph closed out. There's fourth quarters that we've seen Clay closed out in Golden State. So I feel like with Kyrie and KD, it's going to be a my turn, your turn thing. But
you don't know I was
it's
gonna hold up over the year.
how do you know that my turn, your turn is going to really be effective? Because Kyrie sometimes has a tendency to go cold in games and take bad shots because if he's feeling it and he hits you one of the moves, he'll just pull up and take the shot. Like he'll just take the shot and it's an ill-advised shot and it might not hit. And if it doesn't hit, then he's going to do the same thing. He's going to do the same thing again, but he's going to try for a better shot. And if that misses, then that's two possessions wasted. Whereas with KD, I feel like KD should close their games. I feel like you got to pick a
They're
closer.
probably what I think with KD is they might try to ease him into it because he's
Yeah,
still trying to get his legs under him. So they might ease him into the role of the closer towards like the end of the year when he gets his legs under him, and then from there maybe it just will just be him, or they'll just continue to do my turn, your turn. But
I'm glad that KD looks still as good though. Like I don't know if he'll ever be at that level he was exactly before for the injury, but even if he's like 70% of that this year, that's still good money. You know what I'm saying? That's still good money. So yeah, I got Brooklyn finishing like two or three in the East this year.
yeah,
I think.
next team we got up Boston. They've looked
Mm,
they've looked okay. I mean, they still trying to figure out how to create offense without Kemba on the court. And
they need
even
to
with
trade
Kemba on
him.
the court, I don't even think their ceiling is. I don't think their ceiling changes that much because I don't think Kemba's really that dude. Especially, I think that's the main reason why MJ kind of let him go is because the questions about his health. Maybe. Jason Tatum looks. I mean, he's been taking a lot of difficult threes. I don't like him taking all those difficult sidestep 50 dribble threes. Like just make your offense easier for yourself. Jalen Brown has like taken a step though. He's really looked like an amazing scorer this year at least, averaging I think 28 on the season so far. Just dropped 42 on Memphis last night. So
Yeah.
he's looked like he's taking a step. I don't know how he's taken such a big step in such a little amount of time. I don't know if it's the lack of having Kemba out there that he gets more touches, and of course with no Gordon Hayward as well, those touches go to him now. So
Yeah. I'll say I think a big part of it is Jalen Brown's shot selection.
mm,
His IQ is a lot different than the average player. I will give him credit for that because when I saw him sign that big contract, I was like, why do you? I was like, that's a lot of money to give Jalen Brown. And then he pretty much went out there and showed that he pretty much earned that contract. So, and then to me, he's a good defender. He's a really good defender, and he's smart, and I think that is what sets him apart, in my opinion, from Tatum. Even though I think Tatum's a better player overall, but I think Jalen Brown's a better defender, and now Jalen Brown is also he's closing the gap a little bit offensively between the two because
he is.
Tatum's more skilled. Like Jalen don't have the same skills as Tatum, but
He's picking his spots better.
yeah, like she's playing with better IQ. Tatum's issue to me has always been I won't call it
Shot
IQ.
selection.
It was shot selection. That's always been his thing. And like I remember when they went against the Cavs in 2018. That was his rookie year, and they were in the conference finals. And I remember looking at the games, and I'm like, yo, they're up 3-2, and Tatum is not playing well. He's the whole team was playing terrible in that game 7 against LeBron. And I remember thinking like, if he figures it out with his shot selection, then there's no way and no doubt in my mind that those Celtics would have beat those Cavs. And the next year when they came back with Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, that they would have made the finals that year. That was my thought. I was like, yo, because that's you got Kyrie, you had Jason Tatum, you had Jalen Brown, Gordon Hayward, uh, you had Al Horford, I think still. That's enough, in my opinion, in the East that year. That should have been enough offensively and defensively to get you, and you add Marcus Smart on the defensive end to the finals or the conference finals. So when you saw Kyrie brick everything up in that second round against Milwaukee, Tatum he didn't look the same. He kind of didn't look the same that second year, and then he
It
came
was
in.
too many cooks that year.
Yeah, and now I think that was the issue, which is to me is on Brad Stevens, because you're supposed to make it work as a coach. You're supposed
Yeah.
to put them in their spots, and that's why I realized Brad Stevens as a coach, he's a good coach, but your players, like you're not giving your players enough guidance, and I think that's Tatum's issue, not enough guidance into what he does because he's naturally just a pure athlete scorer, like he's just a natural scorer. He can cook. He's a skilled kid, but he just doesn't all the intangibles ain't there yet. In my opinion, they're not all there yet. But I think he has all the skills, but the intangibles of okay, it's 17 seconds on the clock. I don't have to do this three. I don't have to shoot this three. I don't have to make this shot more difficult than it is. I can, there's still not, and so when that, like with Jaylen Brown, on the other hand, just watching him, I'm like, oh, he's picking his, like you say, he's picking his spots. He's finding where his shot works the best, and he's not forcing it. Tatum can force it sometimes, and sometimes he can shoot his way out of that, out of that bad night that he's having. But I like I said, I think that's a good duo. I think that's a good duo, and
One thing that's emerged for them is Peyton Pritchard. He kind of helped them get out of that Indiana game because they were
yeah,
about to lose both Indiana games, and he kind of helped them towards the end of that game. So that's one key player. I know a lot of Celtics fans I saw on Twitter were not really happy with the pick, but I think they'll be happy with the pick as the year goes on because I think he'll
he's a
he'll be someone
shooter.
that contributes, and he's just a smart player. Like I watched him when
Yeah,
he was at Oregon, and he's just a smart basketball player, and those are the type of dudes that you need on your team to win. Next couple teams I want to talk about are Cleveland, who's been off to a surprising start.
that'll fall off.
Um, of course, probably will fall off, but it's encouraging to see guys like Garland and Sexton take strides in their game as a young backcourt. I know they've been missing Kevin Porter Jr.,
And Kevin
who's
Love is out, right?
yeah, and Kevin Love, both integral to their offense. So as they might start to fall off, it may be attributed not just to them like regressing to their means, but it may be also because of them missing out on key players in their rotation. With Miami, they're 2-2 as I mentioned before. They're not really getting off to the hot start as much as everyone probably would expect them to. They are missing Jimmy Butler to start the year. I do think that is contributing to their rough start.
Definitely.
I think by the end of the year though, they'll be where we expect them to be, and they'll be one of the contenders in the East once again. Milwaukee is 2-3.
That's
They
funny.
Yeah, they haven't started off the season as well as probably they hope they would. I mean, Drew Holiday definitely fits in better with the team than Eric Bledsoe did last year. Just being able to shoot the ball is miles better than what Eric Bledsoe was giving them last year. Um, Giannis is taking a bit more. He's doing the same thing he started off doing last year with the threes again. He's taking a bit more post shots too. He's definitely getting into the mid range a little bit as well. Um, their front court depth though is horrible. Like as soon as Brook Lopez and Giannis are off the court, and it's like Bobby Portis at the five, teams just like start to attack the paint at will, getting whatever they want. And I feel like that's going to be an issue towards the end of the year, especially when it gets to the playoffs.
Big issue.
And
Big
I mean,
issue.
yeah, the teams will just constantly feast in there, and if you don't
See,
have anyone to stop them, it's probably gonna force them to play Giannis at backup 5 minutes, which a
which
lot of which a lot of people wanted them to do in the first place.
which they should, because Bobby Portis ain't gonna do it, man. Bobby Porter's not gonna do it. Like I said, when I look at the Milwaukee roster, I was looking at it on paper, and I was like, the only true upgrade I see here is Drew Holiday.
Mm.
And I was like, that's the only thing I see here. It was a DJ Augustine is there. I think DJ Augustine is there now. And I'm like, I'd rather have George Hill. Like, what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather have George Hill. That's a shooter. And DJ Augustine can score too. Just like, nah, I'd rather have George Hill. And then it's like their defense is going to take a slight hit. I think people, you saw them add Drew Holiday, and you think, wow, that's an all defensive guy. That's a guy who can do
Their
this.
defense has definitely taken a hit.
And you can see it. And so I felt like, nah, you needed those guys who come off the bench and can defend. You needed those guys who can, be gritty, a little more gritty, and even Giannis put forth a little more effort. So I think it's like they're coasting. I think they're coasting a little bit, even though they shouldn't. I think they're coasting a little bit because they're trying to find out how to all play with play with each other on the court. So, and like Drew Holiday, that's a big piece to add, because he's a much different player than Eric Bledsoe. So you're putting him in this in this space. And even though is an on ball defender, he's a hound, but that doesn't it doesn't help the way that they play. The way they play defense in Milwaukee, I felt like Drew is going to be good for certain things, but
He's
they
not going
still
to help because like Milwaukee, they like to funnel the defenders into the paint,
yep
into Brook Lopez or Giannis or whoever's waiting down there. And before it used to be like Robin Lopez sometimes, or they would play. I forgot who else they had, but they didn't have that issue last year. It was other issues that hounded them, but that's going to be an issue this year. Is Drew Holiday can't help with your paint defense. You're gonna have to play Giannis at backup five, or they're gonna have to sign somebody. So.
Yeah, I like that's another thing too about this season. There's a lot of teams that have small holes that they got to fill, for their team. And Milwaukee's definitely got to do something. I think it's kind of obvious, like I mentioned earlier with Golden State. I think, and these just for teams who have playoff potential. I think there might need to be for I guess Phoenix. They look okay. They look pretty good right now. But
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what they're missing because I haven't watched enough of their games. I watched one of their games so far, and I want to see with them because I thought their wing depth might suffer a little bit. I felt like it, but so far, I guess you can't complain.
Yeah, they're 3-1, so
Yeah, you can't complain. But once you get to game 15, game 20, you might want to look and get you some more wing depth.
I think their center depth might actually be what's lacking
Yeah.
after DeAndre Ayton because you got
Who did
who's the
they?
backup center? I think it's let me take a look at their roster. Backup
Yeah, I was
center
gonna
they
say
have
like,
it's like you got Jalen Smith, the rookie, you got Frank Kaminsky, you got Damian Jones. It's not a strong not a
Damian
strong center
Jones.
rotation.
Yeah, no, Damian Jones. Yeah, no, that ain't it. That's not it. But yeah, so Phoenix is another one. I keep it a buck. As much as people talking about the Lakers, uh, unless AD gonna play a lot more five,
Yeah, it's looking scary for Montrez and Gasol minutes on defense sometimes
like,
against certain.
ooh, that is not.
Because you saw at the end of the Portland game, they hunted down
Hunted.
Trez and pick and rolls,
That's because it's
and
the
they
same. That's
feasted
the
off them.
same thing that they would do with the Clippers too. That's why when people were like, that's the thing that pissed me off about that signing. People were like, oh yeah, the Lakers gonna know how to use them because Vogel he's all about defense. I'm like, bruh, that don't change the fact that Trez is not a good defender. He's terrible.
Yeah, he
You can
looks
hunt.
lost out there. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Like he's all energy. Trez to me has always been energy. That shit was cool. It was cool when you was playing on the Clippers that didn't have any type of expectations. That one year they overachieved and got them 2 games against the Warriors in the first round. Trez was looking like a god out there in Oracle when he had like 20, 25 or something like that. And they was like, yo, this is a beast. And he won the Sixth Man of the Year. I don't think he was Sixth Man of the Year last year, personally to me, but that's a whole nother story. But I felt like he's energy. He's there for what you need. He can contribute to that. But when it comes down to the times that it really matters in the playoffs, and you can hunt that man, you can go at him. He's not going to give you what you think he is. I was looking at Montrez like, yo, like what they say about Pat Beverly tricking people. I was like, Montrez, like Trez trick people. He's
He
energy.
definitely did.
He's energy. And when they signed Gasol, that's the one thing. When they signed Gasol, I was like, bruh, not to imply that JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard are
We're much
these
better,
savants,
but
but but when I look at
comparing
defense,
them, it's like
and Dwight can move. He has a little more speed than Gasol. So does JaVale. JaVale looking pretty good in Cleveland right now. Truthfully, he's
yeah.
hitting he done hit more threes than Luka. So I mean, you know what I mean. So like I felt like the DNA of the Lakers team that won that ring, even though it was in the bubble. So whatever, like people saying it's whatever, but it's like the DNA of that team. Once you got past AD, you got past Bron. You have Rondo IQ wise. See, like that's one thing I was telling them about. Like Schroeder is an upgrade from an offensive standpoint, but and
They upgraded a lot of their offense, the Lakers this
there, like
offseason
it's an upgrade on offense. But the way they won a championship last year was
was
a defense.
defense.
So
Yep.
when people see it, and sometimes I think people see just names and not fits. Schroeder is balling out right now, but we've also
Mm-hmm.
seen Schroeder We've also it's another one we've seen in the playoffs does not perform the same way. Like whether it was in Atlanta years, whether just this last with the OKC, he doesn't perform that well in the playoffs. So if he starts to go cold or defensively he starts getting lost, which I know people give him credit as a good defender, and he's improved as a defender in my opinion since his Atlanta days, but he still gets lost. He still gets lost like a lot. So
Yeah.
that's where the IQ comes in. Rondo, for all the flack Rondo takes, he's an on court coach too. So he's a game manager. So when you got a guy like that on the court too, it helps with Dwight in the paint. You ain't doing nothing with Gasol. You gonna take him out. They're gonna take Gasol out the paint. They're going to do that. They're going to feast on him. They're going to get Trez the same way. Like you're not that. Like I think for the Clippers didn't improve. But if Paul George don't play like he
Yeah,
did,
that's the next team I want to talk about because the Clippers, they top of the West right now, 4-1. Um and I feel like their offense is different this year. Like Ty Lue is
it's better.
definitely involved, a lot more player movement, ball movement, and you see it in like guys like Batum. That was a sneaky, low key good signing right there. A lot of
For
people didn't
sure.
expect him to contribute. I know I didn't
I definitely did.
because he didn't do anything in Charlotte and he was just there on the bench in street clothes collecting checks, or he was getting like garbage time minutes or whatever it was.
He got fresh legs now. You know
He
what I
got
mean?
fresh legs, so yeah, he's contributing. Serge has definitely been a good contributor for them. Paul George definitely looks a bit better with the ball in his hands more because I think he likes to dictate how he gets his buckets instead of the offense dictating for
Tyler was
him.
a better coach for his style.
Yeah,
Not like notice him. I've always said Paul George was a really good player in his Indiana days. Really good. I never thought he was great personally. I didn't because I thought he had the skills, but it didn't lead to anywhere because in those years when the Pacers made the conference finals, was number one in the East. You still had a pretty solid roster. You still had David West over there. You know what I'm saying? You still had Hibbert was over there. You had all these other guys. So it wasn't like it was just him doing it by himself, or it wasn't like he was like that head and shoulders above everybody else. In my opinion, at that time, because he was only like it's like second or third year in the league. Uh, I think when they made the conference finals the first time and took them to seven and the Heat to seven. So once he got to OKC, I started to like, okay, well, Paul George is good. He can get you 20, 25 a game. Like, but it was that second year in OKC where he was in the MVP talks. And I was like, yo, he literally can do anything on this court. He's a head case. That's his problem. He's a head case. There's only a couple dudes that have shot and hit as many threes uh, over the last couple years as Paul George, and then Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and James Harden.
mm-hmm.
Nobody else. He hit 292 threes in that year. He was nominated for MVP. So he shot like 39-40% from three, like 3 of the last 4 seasons. So he's at that point and he takes like 6 or 7 or 8 a game. So if for someone who almost hit 300 threes in a season and nobody talks about it, right? Nobody talks about it, which is the Steph effect, because 300 threes now, it don't feel like you did much. It don't feel like you did much. Like we see somebody shoot 300 threes like 4 or 5 times and hit 400. It's like, okay, you hit 292. Ooh, whoop de do. But it's like for him to do that, if he can just keep up and shoot 35 to 37% of his threes in the playoffs, because it's going to drop off, right? Because right now he's at like 45, 46% for the first 5 games. But if he can keep that up and hit 37 to 39% of his threes again this year, stay around a 46 to 47% from the field and keep playing good defense and stay healthy, which is going to be his issue. If he can do that, I think the Clippers, this might be a better chance for the Clippers this year than it was last year. Because what we
Well, I
did
think
last year, what we did last year, a lot of people did last year with the Clippers. I'm guilty of it a little bit too, but I was like, I'm not 100% sure because I wasn't sold on PG and Kawhi together yet, completely. I mean, I was hoping, I wanted to see the Clippers go because I just want to see Kawhi in the finals again with a different cast. I was going to see that happen. But I think they have a better shot this year because it actually looks like their roster makes more sense. It
I
makes
still think they have issues at the point guard, though. I think
no,
they
yeah,
still need to
oh for
fix
sure.
that spot
I
because I think they'll benefit better from someone who can really get Kawhi and Paul George the ball in their spots. Like I know Pat
they
Bev
should
is
get
like
they should
doing
get
all
George
right.
Hill. They should go
That's
get
what I was
George Hill.
thinking. And I
Like
think it would cost them a pick to get him, but they don't have picks,
they
and
don't have
that's the
picks.
issue.
They don't have no
So they
picks.
gave all their picks to OKC, and they would have to give another one to
Another
OKC to get
OKC.
Hill. So I don't think that's gonna happen. I would love for that to happen. Maybe George Hill ends up getting a buyout by the trade deadline or something.
See,
They pick him up.
that's
I would love that pickup for them.
now that's the one thing I'm thinking about. Like the buyout market, once we get a little more into the season, that's going to be something to watch for because like if Harden gets traded, PJ Tucker's definitely out, right? Because he's PJ Tucker's going to be out because he's I think this last year he didn't get no extension, and then
Yeah.
if OKC is obviously not going to be a playoff team probably this year, so George Hill is definitely going to get bought out at some point, if not traded, bought out, and then you look at, like I said, Derrick Rose, another one. All these guys that make under 10 million a year are going to get bought out, and they're going to be available. So I would look at George Hill. I would look at Derrick Rose. If one of those guys get bought out, absolutely. I think that right there will put them over. That will put the Clippers over to me because you got Zubac, you got Ibaka. Your pretty much your bigs they're not the greatest, but they're solid enough. They're solid enough. They can get it done. And then you got a better offense. More touches. Everybody looks cool, like cool in the offense. Batum getting some shots up. Kennard getting shots up. Lou will look like his old self again now. Like even Pat Beverly, his weekend, like he looking okay. So it's like if they moving and that just makes a difference. And then you get Marcus Morris. I don't think Marcus Morris has been playing yet, right? I don't think he played yet.
Oh yeah,
So
I totally forgot about him. He's another impact player on both
so
sides of the ball. So
so I think, and once again, Marcus Morris is another one who it depends on if he goes with the Ty Lue offense, which like I said, much praise to Ty Lue because uh I've said this before. The Cavs offense, you don't realize it though, because you look at it and equate everything to LeBron. But the Cavs offense was always going to be good. But the Cavs offense, the season they were with David Blatt versus the season that Ty Lue took over and the year after that, they're actually a lot different. And you don't realize it because we just saw the success and all that they did. But the offense was a lot different. The defense was where Cleveland suffered. But the offense got progressively better the longer they played together and once Ty Lue took over. And you don't realize that until
yeah,
you see like David Blatt was preaching defense to a lot, and then they brought Jr. and Shump over in that trade, and then like their defense was getting a little stronger. But offensively, like you started to see how the offense could flow, and it could flow a little bit better, and then it kind of changed. I think once Kyrie left, but like, you could see he's a better uh you know a better offensive coach, and
yeah,
Doc Rivers' biggest issue to me is that offensively he can sputter out a little bit of what he wants to do. He gets stuck in his ways, and he's blown too many leads in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? To to really make it, they make a case for him as this great offensive coach. So I think Ty Lue probably fits them better. If Marcus Morris can come in and give him 10, 15 a game, which he's capable of doing,
mm-hmm.
then like I said, I think the sky's the limit for that Clippers team if they don't choke again. But
Yeah. That's the big issue.
as we've seen though, and I will say this, as we've seen in most situations, when a team chokes and they come back the next year, this is non-Doc River coach teams. If you choke away or you lost, those teams that come back usually have a lot more focus when they get to the big dance.
and
the next
they
year.
look focused. They look focused this year. So before we close things out, I just want to talk about a team that has surprised each of us. To start this season, I know it's very early, so it's kind of hard to really say who surprised you. But for me, my own Knicks have surprised me. I don't know if you see
Yeah,
me on the timeline. I've been going crazy for my
I've been
Knicks
seeing. I've been
lately
seeing.
because I haven't seen I haven't like the Knicks. They always bring in like a different name as a coach every year. Like before, it was David Fizdale because he had these associations with like LeBron and Wade, and they
Wait,
had his
yeah.
back. And like before, it was Jeff Hornacek because Phil wanted to run his triangle or whatever. And every year it was like it felt like a gimmick, but like this year for real, it feels like we got like a real legitimate coaching staff. Like I've never seen my Knicks play defense the way they play defense, at least through like the first
That's Tibbs, man.
4 games. And that's a credit to Thibs coming in, getting these guys focused, having them playing winning basketball. My guy Julius Randle, I couldn't stand Julius Randle all year last year. And it was because he
Understandable.
and it was because he wasn't playing winning basketball. He was getting all these turnovers. He was doing all these stupid spin moves, not finding guys the ball when they're open. And that was because I think Fizdale had this idea of him in his head as a point forward, but he wasn't really utilizing him to the best of his ability. And Fizdale basically wasn't really even running anything. Like most Knicks fans were confused if we were running plays last year, and and that was the reason why he got fired, anyways. Um,
He was stealing money, man.
yeah, he
Fizz
stole
is stealing money, man. He
so
stole
much.
money.
But Julius Randle out here averaging like 20 something, 24, 10, and 6 to open the season. I mean, he's looking like Jokic out there with some of these passes that he's throwing.
That's Tibbs, man.
And
Tibbs is
and
unleashing them.
and it's also contract year, Julius, as I've heard, as
Oh
a lot of
yeah,
former Pelicans fans say that whenever Julius is in a contract year, he likes to get his numbers up. So a credit to that. Maybe we'll pick up his team option. I know it's only $4 million for next year if we pick it up. So that's a discount if Julius is going to play like that again. So
the one thing you got to worry about, and you definitely, if you everybody knows, Tibbs and his history.
likes to run
Uh,
guys in.
he's gonna run them boys in the ground.
Well, I mean, so far a lot of fans are already complaining about that, but that's because our rotation is so small because we have like five rotation guys like out every night basically. Like we got
Yeah,
Alec Burks out, our two rookies are out. We had Austin Rivers out for most of the year.
and Burks
Um,
is and Burks. I say this. I think Burks is a good pickup for the team, man. I think Burks is he's a yeah, I think he's very underrated, man, as a scorer. He can get buckets, man. And you
and
know,
he can play make as well, which I've been loving for the Knicks and like some of their second unit sets. He kind of runs the offense. Him and RJ, they kind of take turns, and I
yeah.
kind of like that because we don't have a real legitimate point guard, especially with our rookie point guard out, who's been the one that's been creating most of the offense at least. So we have Alfred Payton running our first unit, and basically no one to run our second unit. We just got Austin Rivers back today, and he's been running
Yeah.
our second unit.
Yeah, I saw
So
Austin Rivers is back. Yeah, I saw it. I mean,
I mean, I feel like I don't know. I don't want to get too ahead of myself because with the Knicks, you kind of got to be cautiously optimistic of the team because you kind of figure that they're gonna let you down. But like we haven't had a coach like Thibs before, and I feel like Thibs has these guys really focused and locked in. I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe I want to see these guys make a run for the playing game because we got
I
Dallas's pick, and Dallas's pick could be in the lottery. So who
I
knows?
I, I put it like this: if you guys get healthy and everything persists, and stay healthy, and I think that's the thing though. Uh,
Yeah, if they haven't been healthy
you,
to start the year, that sucks for us.
you know, so by game 20, 25, let's say you guys are at say 12 and 13, game 25, or 13 and 12 or something like that.
Yeah. All right, you good to go.
Yeah, you just gotta watch, Tibbs and how he plays the guys, man. So 20, 25 games in, if you still playing guys 40, 41 minutes, even if you get to the playing game, that might not, you might be wore down. That's what happened with the Bulls,
Yeah.
man. That's what happened with the Bulls, man. Like By the
D
time,
Rose. He was playing
yeah,
garbage time in the playoffs, and everybody was like, "What is D Rose still doing in the game?" And then, boom, the ACL tear, and then everything went downhill from there. So
and so that's why personnel matters too. So I'm also curious to see what the Knicks do. Let's say the Knicks end up 30 games in being like 18-12 or 17-13. Like then do you stick with the same team? Do you make a move? Do you get even better? Like what do you do?
yeah, that's what a lot of fans are contemplating because like a lot of fans are like, do we trade Julius Randle now at his highest? At his highest value it will ever be, or do we hold on to him for next year because we have his team option?
Right.
And then do we also get rid of guys like Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks, Austin Rivers? Do we sell high on them to get more picks and assets for the future, or do we keep them and then we make like a push for like the play-in game or like a ninth or eighth seed, and then we hope that Dallas sucks so that we do have one lottery pick at least, and then do we take things from there? So there's a lot of questions within the fan base for that too.
Yeah, no, man. It's gonna be exciting times for Knicks fans. I can't believe I'm saying that. Like,
I can't believe I'm saying it either
but
or experiencing it.
but like I said, I like the young group of talent that y'all got, and some of the veterans in there like Burks and Rivers and guys like that. Like I like what they're doing. I feel like it's just interesting to see a Knicks team that has some promise, but a lot of it. I think that's the thing. Also, is that for future years for this Knicks team, everything kind of like revolves around progress and growth as players. For RJ, um, from bruh from Dayton that y'all
Robinson.
and Robinson, and you got y'all got so many players that I don't know what y'all gonna do with Kevin Knox.
He's
I
been
don't know.
solid shooting the ball. I like that.
Yeah, so but it's like there's some pieces there that you can see that's a builder for a future, and it all depends on everybody's, I guess, everybody's progression. And like I said, Tibbs is a great guy. Tibbs is a great guy to have on there to help build these guys up. But
Yeah.
he also, he's also that guy who coached the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we saw that
I
didn't
think
really.
with that situation, what happened there was that he was also the president of basketball operations, so he had to also build the roster, and then he had to coach the roster, and then we brought Jimmy in. Like
Too
Jimmy
much
just
power.
didn't get. It was just him being a head coach is perfect for him, and then
Yeah,
having
he
the other front
simplified.
office guys, it's very just simplify with your job, and it makes it that much easier. So what's a surprise team that's been a surprise for you so far?
Um, Cleveland probably been the most surprising for me. I think Cleveland so far, even though it's gonna fall off, I think that's the most surprising out of all of them. In a good way, in a good way. In a bad way, most surprising. I think I said the Wizards already. But those are all both East teams. In the West, I won't even the Nuggets. I'd say the Nuggets surprised me a little
Yeah,
bit. I think because I expected them like, man, you were this close to the finals, man. Like y'all went against the big bad Lakers, and y'all want to get better. And then you think about it, it's like, man, y'all lost, two two good defenders, and great pieces for your organization, and you came back and you look sluggish, you look rough, like maybe that bubble play was just the product of the bubble, and then it makes you look at everything else a little differently too. So it's like I don't know, man. They definitely surprised me a little bit because I thought they'd at least be like off to a hot start because I felt like they had winnable games.
yeah.
Actually, you know what? You know what? The Kings, the Sacramento Kings. That's the team in West that surprised me in a good way. I think they just lost today to the Rockets, but I think they look a lot better than I expected them to. So, granted, I think they are one of the teams that beat the Nuggets,
Twice
but
actually. They beat the
yeah,
Nuggets twice.
yeah. So but I think they look better. They look better than I expected. I don't know if I necessarily see them as a playoff team. I mean, they have a shot at the play in. Like let's say the Mavericks don't make the playoffs this year.
I would love that.
Because I think, man, It's a couple teams that don't seem like the playoffs can be feasible unless they step it up. And like the Memphis Grizzlies, for example, there's no John Morant for another 4 to 5 weeks.
And no
That
JJJ, no
yeah,
Justice
like
Winslow.
yeah,
It's clip for them. They got to go to the lottery again.
yeah, and so that's a rough place to be. So you're looking at some of these teams like that was a team that was right there in contention for the play-in spot. Now you're gonna probably be at the bottom. The Timberwolves got Karl Anthony Towns out indefinitely. They looking at and their roster is some butt, man. Their roster is
It
some butt,
is.
man.
It
Like so
is. It is. D'Lo
so
is not what everyone wants him to be. Like the idea of D'Lo is better than what D'Lo actually is.
see that's the thing. I watched D'Lo last year with the Warriors, and I was thinking, man, all D'Lo is doing is raising his stock offensively, right? He's
Yeah.
making these great passes. He's shooting the ball decently. He's getting 50-point games, dropping 40 on them, 30 on them. It looks great. It means absolutely nothing because you're not winning.
Yeah.
So it's one thing.
He's just there for the vibes.
Right. Like it's one thing, and that's why I remember when Golden State made the trade, I was mad just because I wanted to see Steph, Clay, and D'Lo on the court together. I just want to see that together. I just want to see how it
Yeah, I
looks.
wanted to see it too.
I just want to see how it looked because I'm like, D'Lo can play the two. They're gonna put Clay at the three, even though back off of ACL injury probably wasn't the smartest thing to put Clay at the three and get him right in the thick of that. But I was like, you know what? Like I just want to see what it looked like. I just want to see what it looked like. And when they traded him, I was like, man, Steph, Clay, and Wiggins. And I was thinking, you know what? That's probably smarter because it doesn't allows Clay to ease into the two spot again and, two guard and it doesn't force him to play the three. And I was like, okay, it made more sense. And then when I see it now, I'm thinking, yeah, it makes more sense. Like that,
Yeah.
it makes more sense now. And it didn't make sense to me at first. And it is because, like I said, I just wanted to see three guys that I knew could get you 25 or 20, 25. I wanted to see them all together on the court together. And I realized that they traded to get Minnesota's first round pick. And
Smart
they picked
trade.
the very smart trade. And then they got Wiggins, who, around the same amount of money as D'Lo. So you're getting a guy who, even though he takes a lot of flack, Wiggins is to me the better piece to have because he can
He fit
defend.
better.
He can
He
defend
fit
when he
better.
wants to. When he wants to, he can defend. This is why he is annoying because when he wants to, he can get you 30. He can get you 30 points in the game. He can defend pretty well. He's not like a great all world defender, but he showed some promise. He definitely showed promise in those 12, 13 games once they traded him. So I thought to myself, okay, Minnesota is going to be in the projects for a while. And Edwards is cool. Anthony Edwards is cool, and I think he's going to do his thing in a year that don't matter. So he'll
Yeah,
get.
he's been solid so far. I mean, they bring him off the bench. He doesn't have to do. He gets the ball more in his hands. He doesn't have to worry about sharing it with D'Lo and Cat so much. So it's much better for him.
But see, the one thing I worry about is the Timberwolves going to overachieve a little bit and be like 13 for 12, and then end up with that top 6 or 7 pick, and then that pick is protected only to what, top 3, so
I
they
think
keep it
it's top. I
top
think it's.
5 or top 4, something like that.
I don't know what the protection is, but I know there's a protection on it.
It's protected, but it's like a very minimal protection that makes
I
it.
think it's top 3.
Yeah, so it's like they just had the number 1 pick. I don't think they're gonna get top 3 anyway. So it's like
Yeah.
the Warriors will get that anyway, which is, or if they try to trade it off. So it's like now you're you're really in the project because your first round pick is like you're gonna end up
Yeah.
being a bottom team, and your first round pick will be gone out the door. So it
Yeah.
really.
Minnesota's exactly where I expected them to be honest.
Yeah, so I look at it like that. Like if the Pelicans don't get their thing together, Grizzlies and Wolves and those are teams at the bottom. The Blazers do not. That's another team we need to mention. The Blazers don't even look that great to me
I mean,
right now.
yeah,
They
Blazers. Let's speak on them briefly before we finish things up. I mean, a lot of people kind of overrated their offseason because everybody overrates Robert Covington. The idea of Robert Covington is better than what Robert Covington actually is.
Why is it always players that
Um,
played in Minnesota, man? Like, is the players that
yeah,
play in Minnesota at some point? That's crazy. Like,
yeah, but yeah, Robert Covington. The idea of him is much better than what it actually comes up to. He's not the defender everybody wants him to be. Like everyone talks about him like he's Kawhi light. He's much better off
Nah,
ball than he is on ball. And I think that's a
absolutely.
lot. That's one of the reasons why so many people overrated their off season. They got Derek Jones Jr. They brought back Melo. They got Ennis Cantor back. Um,
Two of
it
those
was
moves are terrible, man. You bringing cancer.
it,
Cancer is not, and
like
yeah.
nothing really helped their defense that much. Like I know they missed the days when they had Aminu and Harkless. I mean, they didn't hit shots that much, but they defended their butts off and they covered up for Dame and CJ so well. So I know
Dame
they
is
missed those
food,
days.
man. Dame is food on defense. That's another thing that makes,
He plays the defense that everyone thinks Steph plays on opposing point guards.
which is crazy because like that's another thing that I don't think ever gets talked about, and I won't really go into it because we have to close it out. But it's like people get this attachments to players and then completely give them reputations that they don't deserve or really
Have
have earned. And
yeah,
for Dame, I always thought like, yo, Dame was one of the guys I like as far as point guards go. He's one of my favorite point guards to watch. But I remember like I went to go see them play live because I wanted to see Melo live last year, and I watched the game and I'm watching the game up close and personal in person. You see it so much differently because I'm looking at Dame and I'm like, man, Dame really makes a lot of mistakes. It's just certain stuff that I'm watching. I'm like, yo, cut this way, do this, do that. Yo, your man is literally you're not going. I'm like, okay, he's not. And I saw that up close, watching it with my own. I like watching on TV is one thing, but like watching it like right there at the court and looking at it, I was like, yo, Dame is making a lot of mistakes. Like this, and I mean, granted, it's a game against the Wizards, so it don't matter. But it's like because they won anyway. But it was like, yo, he makes a lot of mistakes. Then he'll turn up in the fourth, and he'll drop 15 or 20 in the fourth,
and everybody forget about it.
yeah, and I was like, I was like, man, that's how he does it. Like, and I get it. He had that 50 ball in the playoffs and sent Paul George and them home. But that's the crazy thing. People always showed that 3-pointer over Paul George to send them LKC home
But
and
they
all
don't
that.
show the Denver series after that where he struggled and CJ had to basically pick up his
Yep.
dead weight.
CJ closed that game 7 out for them against the
Yeah.
Nuggets. And then we all know what happened after
When he
that
faced
game.
Steph and them
Come on,
boys.
come on,
Yep.
man. Let's be real. Like Steph dropped. That's the highest ever points in a sweep ever in the Western Conference. Like that's I think ever really. I think ever like that's in a
I
sweep.
think so, yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on, man. Like at that point, all these conversations should have been over. Like you're not
And
you.
yet they continue
They
because
can't.
people just can't accept what Steph has done to
I
their
don't.
teams
I
and to
don't get
other
it.
players and his level of greatness.
I don't get it, man. If any other player that they loved that much had the success that he did, they would crown him. Be putting him in top 15, top 10 right now. Like
Top
really,
five.
top 5. Because let's be real. We really want to be real with it. People were saying Braun was top 5 before he won a ring. I've seen that people say that. I didn't understand that back then. You know what I'm saying? People saying, "Oh, Braun is one of the best players I've ever seen." It was like when he went to Miami. People was like, "Man, he gonna be one of the top greatest." And I was like, "Bro, he got 2 MVPs and no titles." At that point, I remember having this conversation with somebody like in barbershop, like 2011, 2012. He's like, "Man, Braun gonna be top 5 all time." I was like, "He ain't got
I
no."
was much younger, and the discourse with us kids was a lot much more probably toxic than it was
I
than
believe
the
that.
barbershop talk.
I
Because
believe that.
I
I
was
believe
hearing
that.
some irrational, a whole bunch of stuff. I used to get into a lot of arguments. That's how I knew I wanted to get into like podcasting and doing all this type of stuff. Because the conversations I used to have in middle school about LeBron and the Knicks and the Heat and all that stuff, I just knew back then that's what I wanted to do. So
But
like
but
I know the discourse was much more toxic with us kids than it probably was with adults.
and see, but because you know what I mean, because when you're young, you say things, crazy things. Like when I was young,
Yeah,
I said some crazy things about sports too. But I think once you start to get older, you start to understand. Even once you get older, you understand the game more. You pay attention more. That's why
yup,
a lot,
that's for
and that's
sure.
why and that's why a lot of I think a lot of younger dudes now they're so heavy on LeBron this or Dame better than Steph because Dame is more relatable to them than Steph is. That's another,
Hmm.
and that's something I hate. I hate to talk about because it's like it's a weird thing to talk about. But that's another thing I think a lot of people do is if you're a player that's more relatable to a fan, the fans instantly gravitate to you. So LeBron being the first player that they ever watched grow up, and they growing up and they watched him his entire career or most of his career, then they gravitate to him. And then if you never seen Jordan play, you never really seen Kobe, in his prime because you might have been a little too young to see him, or and then you see Steph, and it's like, yo, man, I'm a Bron fan, so Steph kept Bron from winning rings. But what's funny about that in the Steph conversation is people love KD again. They love
Yeah,
KD again. So it's
yeah.
like
It was just all the Warriors stuff. That's what it was.
it was so that's such a weird thing to me because it's like Steph, when KD went to the Warriors, Steph led the team in scoring every season by barely, barely, but like a
Yeah, but
point
it
a
was like,
game.
yeah, it was like they both did they thing.
They both did the thing, and then just because the Finals MVP thing, it's like, all right, if
Yeah,
Steph,
that's when Finals MVP started to really get out
no
of
one
hand.
cares. No, like here's the thing, Dame get all this love, and like I said, I rock with Dame. What has Dame done? What
Nothing
has
really.
he done?
He has
Like
nothing to his name, honestly.
like he got a what all NBA. He's an all star. Okay, he
That's it.
that's it. And like once again, take nothing away from him because there's been great players who have not won MVPs, not won scoring titles, not done this and that. Like there's great players who didn't do any of that, but they were at a level that they deserved. You ain't putting, you know what I'm saying? You're not putting this person over this person. If this person got titles, MVPs, and should have a Finals MVP on his resume, I don't like the Steph conversation because there's never been in the history of the NBA where someone led their team in assists, steals, and scoring by 10 points and didn't get Finals MVP. That's never happened. That's never
Yeah.
happened. It's the only outlier that's ever happened. So when people do the Steph and Dame thing, and I guess it matters because tomorrow they play anyway, right? They play tomorrow, so it's relevant
Yeah, they
against
played
each other.
twice, I think.
Yeah, and play tomorrow and Sunday. So with that, I think the Blazers this year, they did beat the Lakers. I will give them that. They did beat the Lakers. A full stack Lakers too. Wasn't nobody out. Nobody was out. So I'll give the Blazers that. But the team is still not that good. Like they they
Yeah,
they they beat
the
the
team,
Lakers last year. They beat the Lakers last year. They weren't that good. They beat the Lakers in game one. Was it game one, right? They beat the Lakers in game one, I think, of the bubble playoffs. So,
yeah,
it don't matter. Like I said, their defense ain't really get better. Cantor is not a help. Nurkic doesn't look like he's gonna be what people assumed he was.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so you already said about Covington. I've never been a big Derrick Jones Jr. fan. I mean, I think he's cool,
He's
but
versatile defensively, but
yeah, like I don't.
offensively he's still limited. So it kind of like limits what you can do on that side of the
Yeah,
ball.
just he's a dunker. He's a
Yeah.
dunker, and and
He's
so
tried to he's tried to expand his game in Miami, but it didn't really all the way
nah, that
pan
didn't
out.
hit, man. That didn't hit
So
because he wasn't that great of a rotational piece for them anyway. So
yeah,
once the playoffs came, once the bubble came, and all this other stuff was happening, like. And that's been his story. But like I said, I feel like the Blazers, man, that's the one team that a lot of people talked about. The Blazers, the Mavs, and the Nuggets. Those are the three teams I think that have kind of been disappointing, in expectations. Whereas I think every other team has kind of, in the West at
exceeded or
least,
met
or
their kind of
met. Yeah, you
expectations.
kind of met. Like the Pelicans, I don't think anybody really saw the Pelicans. I had one dude on Twitter say, "Yo, the Pelicans going to the conference finals." Like I thought he probably was joking. I
I
hope,
hope he was joking.
but everybody else has basically been, like even Golden State. I don't think anybody really expected Golden State to win those first two games. And I don't think anybody expected them to lose those other two games like that against the,
Yeah,
Bulls and the Pistons. So they're right where they should be. And then you kind of, once you get through this homestand, then you'll know more. And the same thing with the Blazers. Once the Blazers get through their next 5 to 10 games, you'll see. But right now, everybody's where they should be, basically. The Lakers started off slow, but everybody said they're going to start off slow because they had the shortest, short off season. So
yeah.
they start off. I mean, they still got to win a record right now, barely, but it's like they start off slow, and they've to me, they had an easy schedule. You went against the Wolves, and they blew the Wolves out, and then they went against the Mavericks, but the Mavericks is terrible. Just they got lucky and beat the Clippers once. Like and that's that 50-point game is what it is. It is what it is there, but that looks like an anomaly now because that offense
Yeah,
ain't
it
clicking.
does.
Because the offense ain't clicking like that. The defense ain't like the Clippers had like what 30 points at halftime. That's an anomaly, man. Like that's not gonna happen. You're not gonna see that too often. You know,
Yeah.
they don't care.
Well, I think that's all we got for today's episode. Thank you for coming on the show today, True God. Definitely
Yeah,
hope
for
to have
sure.
you again. Make sure you check out his Twitter and what he got going on. Anything else you want to plug before?
Oh
we
yeah, yeah. Hey, for sure, for sure. You go to definingrevolution.com. We got the articles popping off back there now. Got new writers and stuff coming in. Got some other things working. I got music dropping and all that good stuff too. You can go to iTunes, Spotify, all that. Check out True God on there. It's like another dude that has the name True God too, but he like a Mexican dude, so don't pay attention to him. Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I got some scripts and stuff we working on. I got a book coming out later on in the year, but I'm not done with it, so I can't really put too much out yet. But hit me on Twitter, and that's where you can find that information.
All right, and make sure you check out the links to the podcast website, the podcast blog. We got the check out the Twitter page. Also, and if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening to, leave a rating as well. It helps the show out. And that's it.